All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Let's Play. We're continuing our campaign on the Eastern Front, back to the Soviet side. And right now, we're still on the second fortnight of August. On the last turn, we saw the German advance, or better yet, the German pursuit of the Soviet army. And now, playing as the Soviets, we have an opportunity to make some maneuvers as well. Right now, the situation is not looking all that great for the Soviet army, I must say. Right now, we really are low on HQs or, command value of our Soviet headquarters. And that really is going to be quite a negative for the Soviet army. So we really have to come up with some decent plan in order to save the situation. We can start with the analysis in the north, and you can see that the Soviets actually do have two HQs in the region. We successfully pulled out the Baltic front from Tallinn. We also have the Leningrad front there as well, but they're kind of under strength right now. There really isn't much that they can do on this turn, but on the following turn, I could build them up using our production and make them a little bit stronger. The worry I have, however, is that right now Novgorod is under siege, and if Novgorod does fall, the German army will have effectively cut off Leningrad. And the problem with that, of course, is that if Leningrad does get cut, we really won't have that many units to uh, defend Leningrad itself. We won't have that many supplies going to Leningrad. Leningrad will fall under fortress supply, and when the units are under fortress supply, only one army can stay alive in the city. And so that means that either the Baltic HQ or the Sixth Army are going to have to be left there as the only defense. So there's definitely complications to allowing the German army to simply break through, and it does incentivize me to redeploy some units if possible. The only other downside I can see in this analysis is that there really isn't any reserve units left. Right now, all of the frontline units are being pinned down by the German army. If I pull back the Soviet 10th Mech Corps or the 5th Soviet Army, it's only going to leave other sectors of the front even more vulnerable to a German breakthrough. So I really don't think the Soviets have many reserves right now to save Leningrad. I think at this point, I almost want to accept the fate of Leningrad and abandon Leningrad altogether. And maybe that is the best course of action. Maybe we pull back the 23rd Army to the city itself to create a strong fortified defense, and then pretty much have all the other units fall back near Leningrad and somewhat create a secondary defensive line of sorts. That actually might be the best course of action, I think. So that's one option for the defense of Leningrad. It's a little costly because we're going to still have to use the Soviet HQ to make some maneuvers, but at the very least, we have Leningrad well defended, and hopefully we can save the city at a later time in the conflict, because I really don't see what else we can do. But if we do abandon Novgorod, we're effectively accepting the fate of the German encirclement of the city. Novgorod is very well defended by the 23rd Army, but I've seen in games in the past where the Soviets get shattered by a powerful German attack at Novgorod. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens next. So that's the kind of situation there in the north for Leningrad and for the Soviets. Further near Moscow, I think the Moscow defense really is the best defensive setup we have right now. We have a lot of strong Soviet armies that right now have yet to see any real heavy action. 21st Army, 24th Army are really the backbone of our defense. Strong Soviet armies, and the 24th here is in near the town of Moshaizk, I believe, and that region, of course, is has the forest terrain, granting them double defense. So it's going to be a very hard position for the Germans to break through. Um, Germans may have an easier time breaking through at Vyazma, but I do think it's still pretty well defended. But obviously, we would want to beefing up these defenses if possible. The only problem here, as mentioned earlier, is the Western Front is very under strength. But given that already the 22nd Soviet Army has been cut off, it actually may make sense if we start doing some kind of tactical withdrawal here. We do activate the Western HQ, but pull our forces back to set up a new defensive line, someone more inland, take advantage of the terrain advantages in Kaluga, take advantages of the river, Oka River as a new defensive position, and start preparing an abandonment of the sector, basically, so that we can then send reinforcements, or excuse me, we can set up a better defense further east. And we also create a bit of a buffer zone, a bit of empty space between us and the German army, which I think has its advantages as well. So we may do that as well. Of course, again, it's going to be logistically quite costly, given that we're going to have to activate the Western HQ to pull back as many units as we can. At the same time, this also means possibly losing Bryansk as well, which also has its fair share of problems. Although Bryansk is only one production point, I'm not too worried about losing it, frankly. I'm more concerned about the preservation of the Western Front more than losing a small production area like Bryansk. A lot more concerned about losing Leningrad than I am about Bryansk, for sure. Then we have the defense a little bit further south, kind of right now we're entering Ukrainian territory. And the defenses here seem to be a little better because there's still a lot of space between us and the German army, but these defenses aren't a complete guarantee. I would want to pull back the 4th Mech Army and the 5th Mech Army. I keep saying armies. I meant to say 4th Mech Corps and the 5th Mech Corps. The only problem, of course, is that, again, a super under strength Ukrainian HQ. So I'm seeing the constant theme here of just very under strength Soviet headquarters, which really means that on the next turn, in the month of September, we're not going to have that many HQs available for any future operations. And then, speaking of further complications in the south, there literally is no HQ in this sector for us to pull our forces back to. I do think this sector is arguably the most vulnerable, given that there's no HQ present to do any kind of withdrawals. But at the same time, I really don't see where else we can fall back to. Falling back to Lozovaya or Izium really makes very little difference in my opinion, given that it's open terrain. Maybe we have a little bit of distance from the German HQ, which is around here, I think in Cherkasy. So it's obviously going to be harder for the German army to have any support. So maybe we do buy ourselves a little bit of time. But I do see the overall situation to be a bit complicated, and redeploying the Southern HQ I don't think is advantageous, given that I don't want I don't want this HQ being destroyed anywhere between the front line now and Rostov. I want this HQ preserved for as long as possible so that I can use it for a winter counteroffensive operation here in the south if possible. And then of course we have further defense here at Sevastopol. Pretty much no defense right now, but I can build it up by another combat value and make it a little stronger. And it's going to be pretty tough for the German army to do anything here in the south, given the distances and given the fact that Sevastopol is also a fortress like Leningrad. So before I actually do the turn, I think I should do the supply check. Already the 18th Army here is going to be liquidated. They effectively surrender. 22nd Army is slowly losing supplies. I'm thinking right now that I should deploy the Western HQ, even though it's at level 1. I'm going to have an extra HQ, which will be beneficial. Possibly activate Stavka as well, because Stavka I can actually use to make some northern operations. I can actually use it to make some southern operations and not have to expend so many HQs. I do think that the best thing would be to fall back from Konotop, maybe pull back this 5th Army, maybe move it over here. Unfortunately, these other units, I don't think I'm going to be able to send that many reinforcements. Maybe reinforce Kharkov a little bit would be nice. So those are some options there. Maybe I actually move the 5th Mech Corps by rail and maybe send it all the way around and maybe try to secure the flanks of Kharkov in the south. That might actually have some advantages, and maybe move the 9th Army to Lozovaya, perhaps. And that way we have much better defense. The unit here in Kremenchug is actually cutting off the German army's ability to have direct operational command over some attacks over here, basically. So I do think we're going to leave that unit behind and see what happens. But the situation in the south isn't great. But anyways, I think for starters, I can activate Stavka, perhaps move the 5th Mech Corps to Izium, pull back the 9th Army to Lozovaya, kind of create a slightly better defensive line here in the south. That might work. Of course, this leaves the center here a bit vulnerable, but then also activate the Western Front. And then I have a lot of units over here. I can pull back the 20th Army and the 7th Mech Corps and actually have these units fall back to much more favorable defensive lines here in the south. I think that's an excellent idea. And then I have some extra infantry. I can really set up some pretty nice defenses, I think, in this sector. So I'm considering doing that. Maybe reinforce Bryansk with another unit and really deny the German army from taking Bryansk. We'll see about that. And then already, I think I have 2 more Stavka moves left since I already using 2 for the 9th Army and the 5th Mech Corps. The remaining 2, I think, would be to pull back the 23rd Army, abandon Novgorod effectively, which I don't really see that as a good idea, actually. I see that as a really bad idea. Maybe I can actually reinforce Leningrad with the 24th Army here, perhaps. Let's see. I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oof, 11, 12. It's going to cost me 2 strategic moves to move the 21st Army over there. So there are some complications here as far as reinforcing Leningrad goes. So that's a bit unfortunate, but I think it's probably our best move because I really don't want to lose Leningrad, and I just want to preserve as many command points as I can. Soviet production right now is also a bit low. It really isn't great as the German army has been taking a lot of territory, and we can kind of calculate the production right now, but we've already lost Kryvyi Rog, we've lost Kiev, we've lost Minsk, and we've lost Riga. So that's 4 production points lost altogether. I might as well update it now. The Soviets were at 64, now they're at 60. The German army, I think, is going to gain a total of 5 production points, given that Kryvyi Rog, since it is a mining site, it's actually going to be twice the production points for the German army. So they gained 3 from Riga, Minsk, and Kiev, respectively, plus another 2 from Kryvyi Rog. That's a total of 5. And so, yeah, I mean, the Soviet production, I'm going to be spending, easily 50 or more on just building up our HQs. Stavka's gonna have to be built up. The Western HQ is gonna have to be built up. The Ukrainian HQ is gonna have to be built up. Maybe even the Southern HQ here may have to be built up or not. I don't know yet. I want to have as many HQs available as I can. And then that really leaves very little points left for reinforcements. I highly doubt I'm going to be able to build up any new Soviet armies. I would like to build up some new Soviet armies, maybe put a couple in Mariupol and Voronezh, maybe another unit in Voronezh, maybe one at Kursk as well. But I am seeing that right now we really don't have that many extra production points available to build new units. And I frankly think a lot of the points are going to be spent on replacements more than reinforcements, given the situation. But yeah, without further ado, we're going to start the turn. I think we are going to activate Stavka. It's a bit unfortunate to activate it right now. It's a bit under strength, but I do think that we need to reestablish our defensive lines to really guarantee a safety from the German onslaught in the next month, which I know is coming strong. So I think we're also going to activate the Western HQ here, and those are the only 2 HQs we will activate. We'll start with the Western Front and start pulling back some units. I can move the 21st to Kaluga. 16th can move across the river, fall back there. What else? 7th Corps, or the 20th Army, rather. You can pull this unit back to Moshaizk there. Pretty nice defense. I'm not sure where to put the 7th Corps, frankly. Thinking about putting the 13th at Orel. Seems pretty reasonable. And Orel is just going to be a nice little position to hold on to, and then we'll do a withdrawal, a pursuit from this area near Smolensk, and there will be some pursuit fire. But we'll pull back to Tula, and then I think that's going to be it, frankly. And then the Western HQ, we'll try to get as close as we can to Moscow. That seems pretty reasonable, I think. This setup, and of course, this is leaving the front very vulnerable, especially to the Western Front. But it seems to be a relatively decent maneuver, I think. The only other thing I want to do is reinforce Leningrad, and I do want to send another unit up to Leningrad if I can. So in order to do that, of course, I am going to have to activate a new HQ, basically. If I activate the Baltic HQ, I can pull back from Novgorod, but I really don't want to abandon Novgorod, given that it's really our best defensive line right now at Leningrad. Maybe I send a weaker unit to Leningrad, although I don't think that makes really all that much of a difference, frankly. I kind of want to send a strong unit up to Leningrad if I can. So let's try it. I think we're going to move the 24th. Or actually, maybe I send a weaker unit, like the 13th. That might be better, actually. Maybe the 13th unit is actually going to be the unit that moves by rail to the north there. We can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That seems pretty reasonable. Of course, that leaves Orel a bit undefended, which I don't like to see, but it really does allow Leningrad to be really well defended, I think, which is nice to see. Maybe I do send a unit to maybe I do send a unit to send the core, the armored core to Mosheist there, and then move the 20th Army to Orel instead. That actually might be a better maneuver. I'm very concerned about the defense here at Moscow. I really don't want the Soviets, or excuse me, the Germans doing anything really sneaky there. So I really want to make sure that area is really well defended if I can. I think we're going to leave it as it is. I think it's pretty decent. So we've done 2 strategic moves in the north there. I have 2 more left. I think the next real move will be to move this unit by rail to the south. I think that seems to be a pretty decent move. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There you go. And then maybe move the 9th to Lozovaya, and we'll have a little bit extra buffer to set up defenses. Of course, this leaves Kharkov a bit vulnerable. These sectors definitely vulnerable, but I think at the very least we have a relatively stable defensive line, and hopefully this defensive line works for the next turn. So with that said, now that we're done with our movement for the turn, we're now in the month of September, so this will be a production phase, and I want to really start building up our units. The last thing I had to do was pursuit fire. I think the Germans do have a Panzer, if I'm not mistaken. And the Panzer has the same speed as the 7th Corps over here. So it gets to roll 3 dice. It's going to be single fire since they have the same speed, and we'll see if it scores any hits. It does not. So the 7th Corps gets away in one piece, which is really nice to see. But now we're going to focus on production. We calculated production to be at 60, right, for the Soviets, since they lost 4 industrial sites right now. We still are getting production from Odessa, which is nice. So we're going to build away 1, 2, 3, 4, and already that's 4, and I guess the next one would be possibly the Baltic HQ or not. I don't know. Kind of don't want to do anything there with the Baltic HQ. Hopefully I can actually withdraw it, frankly. But we've already built 4. So that's gonna be 40 since each production costs 10. Each HQ costs 10 production points. And that leaves us with 20 more. So I'm gonna build reinforcements now. The Soviet reinforcements are quite cheap, or I think it's replacements actually. Soviet replacements are quite cheap. We can see here in the table that the Soviet costs are very low for infantry. They only cost 2 compared to the Germans, which cost up to 4. So the Axis have more expensive units. So that's the one nice thing about the Soviet units is that they're quite cheap to build up, but you can also see that the cadre cost, which is basically building a new unit from scratch, is quite expensive for the Soviets. You know, the armor costs 8, mech costs 6, infantry costs 4, mountain and cavalry costs 6 each. They're actually quite pricey. So it's very important to keep Soviet armies alive and not have them get destroyed because you know they can replenish their casualties really well, but building a new army from scratch is not very cost effective, and it's actually going to the German army will have the cost effective advantage so long as they're continuously destroying Soviet armies. So I do want to rebuild a lot of Soviet armies right now, but I don't think I have that many points right now, at least on this turn, to build them up. And they're very expensive. I think the best defense right now is to ensure that all the armies that are operating right now at the front don't get destroyed. So with that said, I'm going to start adding some replacements. We're going to start here, Leningrad, that's 2, 2, 2, and 2. That's a total of 8 already. I'm going to build up this armored. Technically, it's a mech, but for the sake of the game, it's an armor. That's going to cost 4, so we're already at 12. And then I think building up the 4th mech core and the 5th mech core, each one's going to cost 3. So we were at 12. 12 plus 6 is 18. And that means we only have 2 left for production for this turn. And where do I want to build that up? I'm not sure. I'm not really sure where I want to build that up, but I think maybe I wish I could build up a new unit, but I think oh, Kharkov, we should build up Kharkov. Yeah. And I think that's going to sum up the turn. Unfortunately, we don't really have any production. We don't have enough production right now to build up the defenses here at Dnipropetrovsk or Zaporozhye, 2 major industrial centers. So it's quite likely the German army will be able to encircle these centers. But I think overall, it's a pretty solid Soviet turn. Ooh, I also want to build up the units at Sevastopol if I can. But I really don't see like where I can get that extra production from. So if the German army does decide to go for Sevastopol right now, we're going to be in serious trouble. I do think we will be in serious trouble right now. So, trying to think if I can make any adjustment to my reinforcements. Perhaps Kalinin. I can reduce Kalinin by 2. Not really the best decision. I want all my frontline units to be at full strength, but it may be necessary. Or maybe I diminish Kharkov. It's a tough call. If the Germans decide to go for Sevastopol right now, they're going to have a very easy time. So I have really no idea what to do to fix that. Maybe I reduce one production, 1 HQ. I would think that's also a pretty bad idea. Yeah, we didn't even reinforce Bryansk, and I think actually I may have to do that. Reduce one HQ. Maybe the Baltic HQ needs to be reduced. No, it was already at 1. I never even built it up actually, which is very unfortunate. Maybe the Western HQ. As crazy as it sounds, maybe I won't activate the Western HQ, given that you know it's pretty under strength, and frankly, the units that are here defending, I don't plan on redeploying them anywhere else. Not the best decision, but it may be a necessary one. That will give me some extra production to build up Sevastopol. I also want to build up some new units, build at least 1 new unit and place it in Orel. So that leaves me, that was 6 already. This one costs 4. Cadre costs are pretty expensive, like I said. And then there was 2 in Sebastopol, so that's 6. I have 4 more left. I can go 1, 2, and that leaves me with 2 more that I can still build up. Yeah, no, the situation looks pretty rough for the Soviets. It really does. This is such a risky gamble that I'm doing right now, but it may be a necessary one. 2 more to build up. I could build in Dnipropetrovsk, but frankly, I kind of accepting the fact that's about to fall. I really want Leningrad, or excuse me, not Leningrad, but Moscow to be really well defended. So I guess we'll make sure the 20th Army is at full strength. Or alternatively, I could beefing up this Panzer, this Soviet mech army, and maybe use it for some kind of counterattack. That would be interesting. Not a bad idea. Maybe we do that instead. And just kind of accept the fate of Bryansk as it is. Or I could also decide to build some kind of mech core. Yeah, maybe we do that instead. I'm actually going to build some kind of mech core. I can, if I have any mech. Yeah, here's one. Let's build up the 7th mech core. Or better yet, the 2nd. And that one's going to cost 6 cadre. So that leaves me with 2 more right now. And that remaining 2 will be given to the defense at Moscow. I really hope this defense works. Overall, pretty interesting turn. I think Soviets did some pretty good production. But we're going to end the turn here. Soviet defenses are looking decent. Not fantastic, but decent. And I think we have a fair chance of surviving the German onslaught right now. Pretty good chance of the Soviets surviving. We're gonna have to wait and see, but the German army will throw everything they have right now against the Soviet lines, and we're just gonna have to wait and see if we can survive. So with that said, I'm gonna end the video here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Give it a big like, and definitely subscribe if you want to see me make more videos. I'll leave you with a big question for today, which would be, where do you think was the best Soviet defensive line in 1941? I think most of us would agree that the Dnieper River was a really good defensive line, but as we've seen so far, the German army's been able to breach these lines. So, do you think perhaps the Stalin line may have been better? If you don't know what the Stalin line is, I recommend you look it up. Do some research. A very fascinating line. I hope to visit there one day and make a video on the Stalin line. I think it really deserves its fair share of historical attention, and it's still out there in modern day Belarus. But yeah, I definitely want to know what do you think was the best Soviet defensive line or series defensive lines throughout 1941? What do you think the Soviet Army and the Soviet High Command could have done differently in the summer period to be better prepared for Operation Barbarossa, if at all? So with that said, I'm going to end the video here. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.